Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness. There's Bob. And we are at Sanctuary to do a little tutorial build, but first I wanted to just do a little demo of what this contraption is going to do. I'm not going to save this game, I'm just going to delete this after I'm done, but just to demonstrate what's going on, I have a store here, and it's dusk. And I think that it would be kind of cool if at dusk this store just closed itself automatically and we turned on a street light. So that's what we've got going on. We've got a window here that people can look through and see the merchandise, and got a little armor stand. Now clearly I have not decorated this thing at all. I just built it for the purposes of this tutorial and demo. But that's what we've got going on. I like to wire things to make things happen all on their own without me pushing any buttons. But I also like to have some manual overrides just so that when I'm filming I can make things happen the way that I want, but also I can add some things going on in the backgrounds of my videos that are going on their own. So hopefully I have timed this just about right. What time is it? 7:59. So here we go. At 8 o'clock, it's going to happen. See? Store closed itself. The lights all turned off inside, and the neon sign is gone, and we've got ourselves the street light on. So yeah, if you're interested in how to build this, stick around. So here's Bob, and it is early morning in Sanctuary. And I thought I would take this opportunity to show off my challenge Sanctuary, or the lack thereof. Now, for anyone who feels like, oh man, you know, he's using this scrapping mod and getting all these extra resources that is not available to someone who's playing vanilla, there's actually a couple different scrapping mods available on Xbox, but the one that I use doesn't give any resources for anything that you can't scrap in vanilla. So this really didn't get anything extra out of this. I just thought it was kind of funny. Like, I have personally never had a Sanctuary that this was just this completely barren. So, rambling about mods aside, let's take a look at how to wire that little contraption that I showed in the demo. First things we got to do is get in the build mode. There we go. And let's do this. I thought this was kind of fun. I am going to summon this little shack from the ether. Oops, we don't want this. We want object properties, enable all disabled objects. There we go. Shack just built itself, right? You can basically hide things if you want, use and place anywhere. So go ahead and move this here, and actually I should have probably started off saying that this is something that is only available on Xbox or PC. We can't... Oh. Stop listening. I keep forgetting to turn that off. Not available on PlayStation 4 because of this mod right here, this advanced settlement power. There's a lot of things in here that are handy. Now, I can't do this or use these components in my challenge playthrough because the logic elements, you can see, produce 1 power, and they only took 1 copper to build. So that's why we're doing this as a little tutorial as opposed to something that I showed off in my challenge. First thing I built here is a rain sensor. We'll get back to that. The next thing I want here is a clock switch. So we'll just kind of tuck that up in here. I'm just going to build everything that we need on the outside first. Now the rest of the components are going to be vanilla. So we can go into USO or anything else that you might be using if you're not using USO. And let's grab a delayed on switch. And I want this because I don't necessarily want everything to happen at the exact same time. It's kind of just like too much to watch and too much for the eye to follow. So I'm going to put a little delay on turning on the street light. And yes, this is the one that I want. And also, while I'm here, I am going to build a mortar just so that I won't have to later. I'll just set that down. I'm not using any cheat mods, and so this is the only way I have to change the weather. And that's everything we need outdoors. I'm going to go ahead and wire this terminal to this generator, and I'm going to take the generator to both of those logic elements because I may end up drawing more than one power on them. So having the generator means that I don't get brownouts. So the next thing I'm going to do is wire the clock switch to the delayed on switch. And I guess I'll go ahead and put my street light kind of where I want it and put my delayed on switch where I want so I don't have to mess with those later. So let's get out of the build mode and oh, I forgot to wire the mortar. We'll get to that. Let's get into this terminal here and program our logic elements. So the first thing is I want that clock switch to turn on at, come on, set activation time. There we go. I want the clock switch to turn on at 8 p.m. That is dusk, and that's a good time for streetlights to turn on. And I want it to turn off at 7 a.m. That is just after sunrise and a good time for streetlights to turn off. And this delay switch, just so that you can kind of watch everything else happen before the streetlight turns on, I'm going to set that at a 2-second interval. So we've got all of our wiring done outside the building. Let's get back into build mode. And before I forget again, I'm going to go ahead and wire that mortar up as well. Doesn't do anything as long as we don't load any shells into it. Okay, next thing I want to do here is I want to set up all of my lighting. And for that, I'm going to need some radiant power. And because I know exactly how I want this build to go, I can go ahead and set this down right now. And as long as I am careful and don't touch it and make sure that it has power before I disconnect that wire that I just glitched through the wall, then that will mean that my lights will only run off of that, and I can then connect that to logic gates and set it up so that all my lights turn on and off the way that I want. So this is a store. Let's put a big strong light down behind the display stand here, which is just a table that I scaled up a little bit and some shelves that I stuck on top of it. You could imagine if I was going to bother decorating this, I'd put some armor pieces in here and maybe some other bigger merchandise there. And then let's put like a ceiling fan over here just to keep the guy who's running this this little armor stand cool, and maybe put a sign out front to try and get some attention. So let's go over into neon, and you can actually do some fairly subtle effects with neon. Let's go ahead and show you what I mean here, although it may get a little washed out, especially after YouTube is done processing the video, and especially if you're watching on like a phone or a tablet. So you can see I put like 5 of those O's down so that the O will be extra bright. So again, this may not show up on your screen, but it looks pretty good on my TV. So next thing I'm going to do here is just mix a little yellow into that. So I'm going to do that R. I'm going to skip the O just to make it kind of look like that sign is kind of on its last legs. And let's do that. Come on. R and the A. There we go. So, got everything all nice and lit. Now it's time for some logic gates. Actually, no. Now it's time for some switches. So I'm going to have a couple of switches here because I'm going to actually be able to control that door and that window independently. Now it's important that I put these switches down and then wire glitch the power to them instead of like using place anywhere or something, because these switches are power radiators, and if I move them or touch them kind of in any way, it will break the lighting that I set up off of the conduit there. So we don't want to do that. So got our switches so that we'll be able to control the window and the door independently. You could do all this on one switch if you wanted to. And now it is time for some logic gates. In fact, it's time for my favorite logic gate, which I guess I'm a gigantic nerd because I have a favorite logic gate, but the exclusive OR gate. So to get this to run off of that clock switch, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a switch here, and we're going to bring this outside, and this is okay to use place anywhere with because it's not a power radiator. But yeah, I want to actually get onto that clock switch, so I'm going to place that right there and grab that, and now I'm going to set it down on the outside here and hook it to the door. And now that we've got it all wired up, we can kind of observe how this works a little bit. What happens is that during the day, the clock switch is off, the wall switch is on, and because it's an exclusive OR gate, it will send power out if exactly one of the inputs is hot. And so during the day, this switch will act as a manual override. The shop owner, if he sees somebody coming he doesn't like, or there's a raid or anything else, we can shut this door during the day manually. And at night, it also acts as a manual override because at night, the clock switch activates. There's 2 live inputs to this thing, so it stops sending power to the door. But we can still use this switch as a manual override because as soon as we turn it off, we're back to a single live input on the exclusive OR gate, and the door will open. It might make more sense when I actually do the demo. Now the other thing that I want to do here is, since I want all my lighting to work, and whenever that door is open, I'm going to hook that conduit straight to the door. Now because I still have additional wiring to do, I'm still going to leave that glitch wire in place. And honestly, this is it. Like, if you want to have doors open and shut and do it on a schedule and just kind of have some things happen around your settlement without you having to push a switch and just kind of give a more live feel to the settlement, this is literally all that you have to do. And that's cool, but I am a sucker for making things that are too complicated. Go big or go home. So I could have this shutter have the exact same setup, and in fact, let's go ahead and get that going. So we'll take this and hook this to that switch, and hook this up to the clock switch, which was this one, and there's that. And now we can put this here, place it location, and hook that up. And now the screen opens, and it'll open and shut on the same schedule as the entrance door. But in kind of a real bit of good luck, it happens to be raining. I didn't plan this. That was actually the purpose of the mortar shell, was so that I could actually make it rain out here to demonstrate this thing. But wouldn't it be nice if this window closed when it rains? I mean, when it rains, you don't want all your fancy merchandise to get wet. So I think it'd be cool if that window closed whenever it rains. So we're going to take this other OR gate, or this other exclusive OR gate, and we're going to hook it to that rain sensor that I built earlier. So if I can just... Dang it. Come on. Sooner or later I'm going to grab this thing. There we go. And now let's come over here and make sure we actually hook it to the input, not the output. There we go. So you see there? That gate, or that window, closed. And in fact, let's see. Let's go ahead and get this set back down so that it looks, well, I was going to say halfway neat, but neat for me. Because I tend to have wires going everywhere in my settlements. That's an aesthetic that I like, so that's what I do. Anyways, yeah, now that it is raining, what we've got going on with this switch is that a second input has gone live. And so the window closed, right? Because it only sends power to the window when, which is actually a rolling metal door, by the way. It's just something I scaled down. But it only sends power out when there's only a single live input. So we can kind of demonstrate how this whole thing works by getting out of build mode. And so here is the switch for the door. And, oh, right, I forgot. I need to remove my glitch wire. Back into build mode. So, gonna take my glitch wire off, and see how the lights stayed on. That's because that conduit was hooked to the door, if you remember when I did that. Okay, back out of build mode. Now we can test this door. See, the lights turned off, and that neon sign turned off. So we have a manual override for this door that takes precedence over what happens with the clock switch. Now, let's see, is it still raining? It is still raining. That door is still shut. And if I hit this button, I can open that screen if I really want to. If there is a trader coming into town who looks like he's got a ton of money, I can open that door with this manual override. But if I just leave it in the normal position, that window will open and shut all on its own without me having to do anything anytime it rains. Neat. I'm going to leave those switches in the... Oops. I'm going to leave those switches both in the on position, and I'm going to fix this wall and be back after dark so we can hopefully show you again basically what you saw in the demo, but we're also going to add in the rain bits. Back in a sec. All right, so it's about 7:15, and actually, I want that street light to face a different direction. So we're just going to turn that about 90 degrees. There we go. And we're good to go. Okay, so while we wait for it to get to be 8 o'clock, let's go ahead and just do a little demonstration here, because dang it, I made all these weather change shells. So we're going to put a rain shell in there, and once it starts to rain, the window closes, and let's put a weather clear shell in there. And once the weather clears, the window opens. And we still have, I showed the manual override when the weather was rainy, but now that it's clear, you can see that it still works. Okay, I guess it's 7:38, and I can't think of enough to say to fill the time until 8 o'clock, so yeah, let's just go in here, and then we're going to have a jump cut. Here we go. It's 8 o'clock. Closing time. Time to go home. Street lights on out there. And, yeah, we would be locked in, except that we do have a manual override. And if we feel like working some extended hours, we still have that manual override over there. But even though it's after dark and we're working late hours, if it should happen to start raining. Actually, I take it back. So there is one condition where we cannot manually override that window. And that is when it is at night and raining. And you probably could do it with enough logic gates, but I struggled with this particular condition for quite a while and finally said, you know what, I don't really need to be able to open the window after dark when it's raining. If that's what's going on, it can just be closed. So yeah, that is my little shops on a schedule build, and I hope you like it. I hope that that it was interesting and maybe gave you some ideas for things that you can do in your own settlement, as far as just kind of trying to add some action and life to the place that don't necessarily involve you having to go through and hit every single switch. If you liked the video, be sure and hit the like button down below. And if you didn't like, please tell me why down in the comments so that I can try and do better next time. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.